All right, we're live.
Okay, we're live. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure.
Oh wait,
Awesome.
it said we were live and then it told me no, you're not. Hold please.
Oh,
It's the lag. It's just the lag. We're good.
I think we're live. Awesome. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. Oh, that was my fault. Okay, now we're actually starting. No more touches. We're still figuring out this process. Welcome everyone to our AMA. Obviously, we are always on the Discord channel. We are here to answer all of your questions, but this is the first time we are doing a live AMA. We're going to be answering some of the questions that you guys submitted ahead of time, and generally talking about everything related to Ironfish. So I'm going to kick it off. Firstly, I do want to thank everyone. It has been one of the most healthiest communities that I've seen for any crypto project. Our Discord is almost 1,000 people, and all the questions are healthy. There are people trying to learn how to install Ironfish, how to run Ironfish.
Uh-oh, there goes Elena.
All right, well, I'll just jump in there. It looks like Elena had a little bit of technical difficulty there, but I'm sure she will be back. But yes, our community is so welcoming. We hear it from so many people and are just so impressed by how comfortable people feel asking questions, being new. And we want to thank all of you because you're the ones that make that possible and have built that foundation over the last couple of years.
And Meg, your audio's on repeat again. There you go. I think Elena's back. Are you back, Elena?
I love telecommunications software.
We'll just wait a minute here.
Yeah, I'll jump in for a second here. We're having some technical difficulties. Thank you everybody for the patience as we figure out YouTube streaming. Obviously, there's some challenges there, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, we just want to thank everybody in the community. It's been a fantastic year plus of testnet, and we've exercised the network fully. Like Ironfish has shown that we can build a really fantastic privacy protocol that's fast and secure and reliable. And it's been due to the effort of all the people that have been able to participate in the testnet. So we want to talk, first of all, thank everybody for that. I'm going to hand back over to Elena, who has figured out her technical situation. So
I hope. Okay. No idea what's happening to my internet. It's literally fine right before we started this, so I'm not sure what's happening. But yes, I think everyone thoroughly has thanked the community, so we can move on to two announcements that we have today. One is, this is not a secret for people who have been looking at our public roadmap, which is that we're targeting Mainnet to be Pi Day, March 14th. So 3.14. So it's very soon. The team is working really hard to hit that. So if anyone has any ways to help the team engineering wise, please do so. And then the second piece of news that I want to talk about is phase 3. So this is kind of the more nuanced piece of news. So if you look at our stats page right now, and I think Jason can speak to it a bit more, we're seeing a lot of activity, and we're seeing more than 300,000 custom assets being created on the network. This is causing some engineering load. And Jason, do you want to talk more about some of the problems that we've been seeing as a result of that?
Yeah, so I think phase 3 has been wildly successful. If you look at our stats page, we're seeing over 60,000 nodes. I think a lot of people that is incredibly exciting. The whole team is very excited about that. That just shows that there's just incredible kind of like attention and people are kind of very interested in the project and participating. I think I looked the other day and I kind of saw an estimation that like Bitcoin has maybe 14 to 16K nodes, right? So this is really exciting. But the problem that kind of causes for the team is we have an incredibly involved system for our testnet. We're trying to credit points real time. We have a leaderboard. We have all these kind of node uptime things. And all these require a lot of services. And Ironfish is not a services company, we're a blockchain company. And so as we kind of like all of that attention came to phase 3, we started running into these issues where like that was creating load on the system. And we were faced with a choice. We could continue to maintain and upgrade and improve this temporary infrastructure for testnet, or we can kind of dedicate our engineers to the core blockchain. And that's kind of like the issue that we're kind of faced now, which is like, yes, we probably could optimize some of this testnet phase 3 infrastructure, but ultimately we want to focus on kind of the mainnet launch, which is the most important thing. So those are just some of the issues that the team is facing right now.
Okay, so with that, early because we want to focus our engineering efforts on mainnet. That is the most important thing right now. And we did not expect this much activity and this much excitement for phase 3. And the engineering team is kind of struggling to prioritize both maintaining phase 3 as well as making sure that mainnet launch goes smoothly. So we are closing down phase 3 this Saturday, which is the last day for this week cycle, in order to give the engineering team more time to process all the activity that we've seen so far. So we are going to be announcing this as part of a blog post and Discord and Telegram channel, so everyone is aware of exactly what's happening. But we just wanted to call that out before we get started on the AMA, so everyone knows what's happening. Cool. And with that, I think we can head on over to the questions that we have in the AMA. So these are the questions that you guys have submitted throughout the week. So we'll just go question by question. Cool. So question number 1, what are the key goals for Ironfish after mainnet? Who wants to take that one on? Okay, I guess I will do it.
This is a good one for you, Elena.
Yeah,
All right.
we volunteer you.
So key goals after mainnet. So we want Ironfish to be the privacy platform for crypto. If you look historically to SSL technology, right now we are all using HTTPS, which back in the day was actually a pretty controversial piece of technology. And we see Ironfish as that continuation. How do we make Ironfish such a pivotal, such a fundamental Lego piece of crypto that crypto transactions go through Ironfish to give people the privacy they want, without the person needing to know the complexities of how the cryptography actually works. So kind of think of Ironfish as how do we become the fundamental kind of plumbing system for crypto to make it so that most crypto transactions do interact with Ironfish to provide that privacy layer, just like we're using HTTPS today for almost every single service that's going online. There is definitely a very long road ahead of us to make that dream a reality. And, it starts from fundamental steps. Obviously, phase 3 was all about multi-asset, which is like the first stepping stone into that direction. We want to partner with bridges so that Ironfish can interact with other chains and actually provide privacy to other crypto assets. We want to make Ironfish more accessible. So we want to build a wallet that actually helps people to launch Ironfish in an easy way. And we want to have continuous partnerships with existing projects, existing infrastructure projects or wallets or any other apps to make the integration pretty seamless. Cool. Where do you see Ironfish in 5 years? Looks like Lawrence wants to take that question.
Yeah, I'll take this one. I love talking about this topic, and it actually connects with what Elena just said. Right now, private transactions on blockchains are well less than 1% of overall transaction volume. So if you start with the assumption that blockchain and crypto transactions will move towards privacy, just as HTTP moved towards HTTPS, like that's a huge opportunity. And we are very, very excited to tackle that. And we think we're very early on, and we think that going, this transaction volume is going to go from like well under 1% to over 50% or something much bigger than it is now, and that there will be lots of winners in this space and lots of really interesting developments, and that we're on the ground floor of it. So obviously we're going to start with launching the Ironfish chain, but over time, over the next 5 years, we want to become an authority for private crypto transactions, bringing safe, secure, reliable private crypto transactions to the world. And that's going to be a problem that needs to be solved. We think, especially as crypto is used for more everyday transactions. So, the more you use crypto on a day-to-day basis, the more you're going to want privacy around these transactions. We see that coming. We think we're ahead of it. We're really excited to be there on the journey as the world moves this way.
Awesome. All right, let's go on to the next question. Will you be releasing information about Ironfish tokenomics? What are the team and investor allocations, investing periods? What is the total supply? And what will the initial circulation supply be? So I'll take that one. And I've actually seen a variation of this question in the live comments. So I do want to address this one. So we are going to be releasing very detailed tokenomics of the Genesis block. But I do want to kind of point out some of the things that are already available. The emission curve schedule for Ironfish has been on the white paper on the website for a pretty long time. The initial supply is going to be 42 million. That's the Genesis block. And then if you want to check out the white paper for the actual emissions curve, we put in a lot of thought into making sure that the emissions curve was such that inflation was reasonable over time, while still giving proper rewards to miners. In terms of the actual allocation for the team investors, everyone is actually going to be under a 12-month lockup, and then with another additional year of gradual unlocking. We did that so that the circulating supply is such that it's not super insider heavy, to make sure that the community is aware that we are here for the long term. We're not going to dump on the market. And we, genuinely want to see this project succeed long term. And so everyone, all the insiders, including all of our investors, are under the same lockup. So look out for the tokenomics paper. We are actually actively working on putting that on the website soon. So that should definitely answer some of those questions. Okay, I'm actually going to take the next question as well, which is, how is Ironfish different from its competitors? Projects. So some of the projects that people have asked about in the past are Aleo, Aztec, Zcash, Oasis, and Monero. So I'll kind of talk about all these projects, but I kind of want to start off first of saying that privacy is really hard. And I personally have really deep respect for any project that is trying to do privacy. It is very hard technically, it's very hard regulatory. And so I'm actually very supportive of all the projects that were mentioned, because they're helping the crypto community as a whole pave the way for privacy being accepted. So I actually think it's very healthy that we have competitors in the space, because that means we have more allies of actually pushing privacy forward. And competition is always good. Like, we're learning from all of our competitors, they're learning from us. And so I think overall it's pretty good. So I do want to kind of talk about some of these because it is a pretty common question. So the first project that people asked about was Aleo. So Aleo is another layer 1 project. They are also currently in testnet. I actually believe they're also currently in their phase 3 testnet, or the 3rd testnet. So our timelines are eerily similar. So we even have a lot of people in our community who are participating both in the Ironfish testnet as well as the Aleo testnet. So I do want to talk about that project quite a bit because they're just so similar in terms of timeline to Ironfish. So Aleo is the use case for Alio is different than Ironfish. Alio wants to be more generic in terms of private programmability. And they do provide a different smart contract language called Leo to help them with that. Alio does not have privacy by default and doesn't have privacy only. You can do private smart contracts on top of Alio with some kind of customization of what's public, what's private. And so I think they're trying to go for a more broad use case for what that is. Some of the use cases that they're trying to hit are things like, how do I log into a website, for instance, without the website knowing who I am? I can just kind of give them as you launch proof verification of who I am without them needing to know who I am. So they're hitting use cases that are just very vastly different than Ironfish. Ironfish wants to keep its messaging very clear. We are here for private transactions, and we are here to make that really easy and safe for people to use. And with Alio, I think they're trying to get to a much more broader definition of what that is. So Aztec is another privacy project. Honestly, Aztec is a great ally in the space. They've been helping us quite a bit, especially kind of on messaging regulatory side. So I'm a huge fan of the project myself. Aztec is focusing on Ethereum mostly, versus Ironfish actually wants to support other chains as well. So Ironfish kind of view Ironfish as the generic layer for crypto for private transactions across different chains. Aztec is very Ethereum focused. Next is Zcash. So we are huge fans of Zcash. In fact, we kind of bootstrapped our privacy mechanism from Zcash as well. Zcash is siloed, so they have public transactions, and to this day, transactions make up less than 5% of the volume. But also, they to Ethereum, but you cannot put Ethereum assets onto Zcash. Versus for Ironfish, we are more collaborative. We want other crypto assets to come to Ironfish for the benefit of privacy, and Zcash more siloed. Oasis is a project that actually launched, I believe, or was more prominent in the 2017-2018 era. So I'm actually surprised people asked about that. They work on enclaves, so something called SGX enclave system. So their privacy mechanism that I think is fairly dangerous to use. And we've had, hacks, like for instance, Secret Network was completely de-anonymized, and they use the same enclave technology that Oasis is using as well. Monero, kind of similar to Zcash in the sense that it is a very siloed chain. They've had a lot of kind of community development early on, but I don't quite see Monero developing currently. And so again, Monero just provides privacy for Monero. It has no plans of doing anything with multi-asset capabilities of providing privacy to other chains. So I think that I made it down the list. Cool. All right, next question. What are some of Irish's challenges and how have you addressed them? Jason, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I'm going to actually give my vision here, maybe change this question up. I'm going to actually summon a couple other engineers into here to talk about parts of the code base they've worked on. So first and foremost, like building a new layer one is extremely difficult. It's very, very hard. And my general push on the engineering team actually for the past multiple years that I've worked on it is that we should build something extremely kind of simple and that works very, very well and expand it from there. Lena talked about this in her first question. Mainnet launch is not the end for Ironfish. I'd much rather cut down the amount of features, build something that's incredibly stable, and then kind of expand it from there. So one kind of common problem with a distributed system is when you build something and you put it out there, you have to ask people to upgrade, right? So if you are shipping a bug and then you try to put in a bug fix, sometimes it's just incredibly hard to get people to download the latest version. Our Discord is actually a great example of that because many times I'll look and see that people are experiencing an issue in our Discord and I'll ask them what version they're on, and they're actually 6 versions ago. And we've actually fixed 100 bugs since then. And actually, a kind of a fun story is like in the beginning, when we first got our gossip in phase 1, we actually had some banning code where we were trying to essentially kind of ban people that looked like they were submitting invalid transactions. And we actually had a bug in our banning code, and we created what was called like the great banning wars of the network, where actually 90% of the entire network banned each other. And nobody was left on the network who could actually mine blocks because of this one bug. And that's actually an incredible challenge, because we were like, okay, like we thought this code worked, but when you kind of put it out into the greater network, you can kind of see how it can cause issues in an unexpected way. So we've become much more cautious about the type of code we deploy, and we try to be much more stable since then. There's like a lot of other types of challenges related to engineering, which is like, well, so look, I'm kind of curious to get Matt's perspective. So obviously we have built multi-asset, which is kind of like a huge new feature for kind of Ironfish, which is to allow essentially ERC20 style coins. And Matt built a lot of kind of that with a couple of other engineers in the team. So I'd love to hear your perspective. Like, how is it building kind of like this huge new concept, but with privacy at its fundamentals, to build into Ironfish? What were the challenges in that?
Well, the biggest challenge is that privacy is hard to get right. We had to build some new zero knowledge proof circuits, which, if we do those incorrectly, we could potentially, lead to ways to leak privacy or diminish privacy in some way. So we spent a considerable amount of time just, making sure those were as good as they can be. And everything's a little bit harder if you're concerned about privacy, because you have to make sure there's, no obvious attack vectors. And if you look at some of the attacks on attacks, or just like flaws in other privacy related things, not necessarily just cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of really amazing things that people can do to like put pieces of information together to like de-anonymize or something. And so it's just something we have to think about constantly. But it's exciting.
Yeah. I know that Derek, obviously, so one thing as well is like, Ironfish is innovated not because we are just doing kind of core privacy stuff, but we're also innovating in like a couple other ways. We actually have some fundamentally new and interesting kind of P2P networking, where actually we support both WebSockets, but also we support WebRTC, which actually is part of the reason that a lot of people running our nodes have noticed that you don't actually need to do NAT punching or port forwarding or open your firewall. And that actually comes with kind of its own challenges. I'm not sure, Derek, I feel like you've kind of primarily owned like a lot of that kind of technical challenge of kind of building a lot of that peer-to-peer network stuff that just makes sure the blocks flow through the network and that users can connect to each other. Do you want to speak on that?
Could you give me some more color on what you're looking for there?
Yeah, so like building a brand new peer-to-peer network from kind of like the ground up and doing it in a new way, right? What are some of, let's say, like the challenges and like the difficulties of kind of like writing that code and kind of managing it and kind of like making changes to that as like a brand new L1, kind of building all of this from scratch?
Yeah, so I think some of the challenges from our approach in particular are, I think we were originally designed to run inside a browser. And though we're not developing in that direction now, we still carry some of the technical decisions that are made on that front. So, or a lot of other tokens just have a simple like direct connection. We have multiple types of connections that can be made, and the node will kind of switch between them depending on what's available and what allows two different people to be connected. And I think some of the other challenges we haven't necessarily optimized in this direction, but this is what we'll be looking at going forward is like, given you're connected to a bunch of different people, how do you figure out who to download blocks from in order to get blocks the quickest? And also kind of how do you determine like if one person slows down while you're downloading blocks to them, should you switch to somebody else for stay the same? I think the other challenge that we have been working on for a while has been when a new block is mined or a new transaction is created, how do we get that out to the rest of the network as fast as possible? So I think fortunately, since we're in the open source space, we have the advantage of looking at a lot of other solutions that people have come up with so far and kind of combining that with our own individual ideas to make something that works pretty well. But I think those types of issues can be some of the most challenging to debug is when say somebody creates a transaction or mines a block and then half the people on the network don't get it for some reason. Trying to figure out why that is the case can be pretty tricky and usually just involves a lot of looking at the process for how blocks get out to the network and thinking through it and seeing if there's any issues in your reasoning there.
Yeah, those are all tough challenges to solve. Yeah, thanks for your insight. I'm going to kind of pass it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, can I add some of my experience? So I just joined Ironfish 4 months ago, and I'm still new to the company and also community, but I have touched already and also deliver some of the features. So like on the wallet, like offline signing and the fee estimation. So I want to say, based on my experience so far, I find one of the challenges we are building a very innovative and a unique product that there's no other. There are not many L1 privacy chain out there. So whenever we want to build a feature, we solve a problem, we cannot just go on Google search and then get the answer. So I think that's the whole team are navigating through the unknown, and also we need to figure out what's the best solution for our own use case. And during the process, I realized, Ironfish really cares about the community, also really cares about our user. So we will really listen to the people on the Discord and then trying to get what's their use case and query patterns and build our feature. So I think that's kind of what I really love about working at Ironfish, and also I felt, I'm really building this product for all the users out there, and also we have a strong connection on the Discord and have a very close Discord community. Yeah, I just want to add my experience there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks for contributing to the conversation. It is pretty tough. And yeah, we obviously do listen greatly to the people in Discord. And speaking of that, actually, there was a comment that the question that I just saw that said, a lot of people in the Discord are actually wondering, my mint, burn, and send are not being processed, and I want to know why. And so we actually did touch on this earlier. And I kind of mentioned in the chat, we're seeing an immense kind of load from the amount of network or the nodes online participating in phase 3. And that's actually causing significant issues right now for the team. Technically, we are trying to resolve it. But as we said earlier, we're actually going to end phase 3 on Saturday, which is the last day of week 5, if I remember correctly. And as long as your mint, burn, and send transactions are confirmed on the blockchain, they will get credit by the time we count the points. So apologize that you're not seeing the leaderboard update. That's just an issue with the amount of load that we're receiving right now, but they will get credited. I'm going to pass it on to Elena for the next question.
Awesome. Yeah, and keep these questions coming. We are going to make our way through the questions that were submitted first, but we'll definitely, we're definitely looking at what you guys are writing as well. So the other question was around, where I guess the question was like, what are some of Ironfish's biggest challenges? And one of them is definitely kind of, how do we launch a privacy project in a safe way? And what I mean by that is, privacy is a double-edged sword. If you guys remember what happened to Tornado Cash, that's a really good example. So Tornado Cash was a privacy solution for Ethereum, and it did actually get sanctioned by OFAC, which is part of the US regulatory government. And so that was because, North Korea hackers were using Tornado Cash to launder money that could potentially be used for some terrible activity like nuclear, warheads. So when we are building a privacy project, we have to be very cognizant of the regulatory challenges that we are facing. And also we as engineers, we want to build a product that will be a net good for the world. And so some of the challenges for Ironfish is, how do we communicate to regulators that what we are building is to protect consumers, to protect users of crypto by providing privacy to them? And we're not building this for the bad actors of the world. And so that is definitely one of the regulatory challenges, which again I'm very grateful for some of the other privacy project allies we have in the space who are helping with that message of privacy is a net good for the world, especially if we can build a more careful way. Cool. I think one of the questions that I've seen in the chat was also, what are some of the use cases for Ironfish? So I do want to touch on that one real quick as well. So Ironfish is all about providing privacy. So right now, if you're using, Ethereum or Bitcoin, all your transactions are out in the open. And so that actually leaves you very vulnerable. That leaves you vulnerable to phishing attacks and scams and targeted attacks. If you go to a conference and everybody knows that you own several apes, you literally put a price tag on your head. So Ironfish provides privacy for people who want to use crypto in a financial way, but who do not want to have an entire wallet available for anyone else to see. So that is our main use case, is to give more safety to people who use crypto. Cool. All right, I think we can go on to the next question. What's the best response to people who criticize Ironfish for using proof of work instead of proof of stake? Sounds like Evan and Jason want to answer that one.
Yeah, I'm always really excited to talk about the merits of proof of work versus proof of stake. I've worked at proof of stake projects. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, so I also love thinking about terawatt hours and things like that. So there's really, I guess, all kinds of different angles you could discuss. So first of all, we're a decentralized project, right? And we want to have that baked into the very core of our protocol. Now, necessarily though, when you choose proof of work versus proof of stake by design empowers the largest token holders to veto the will of the network. In fact, it's a de facto oligarchy, right? An oligarchy is where those who have the most money have the most power, and proof of stake is those who have the most tokens have the most power. Versus proof of work is, I'm gonna cut myself off because I'm getting excited and I could talk about this all day long. Proof of work's much more egalitarian. Anyone can come to the table with a power source and some hash rate, and make sure that their voice is heard by the network. Additionally, as an afterthought to that, an afterthought to what I'm thinking about, but really core to designing a safe, secure, private protocol, is proof of work is far, far, far more battle tested than proof of stake, right? There's a lot more open questions related to proof of stake. Proof of stake projects have very large research departments for a reason. There are a lot of unknown possible attacks with proof of stake, whereas proof of work it's very battle hardened. And to this end, we really like working with proof of work. And of course, there's an economic dimension too, where you see this interesting thing where under proof of work, it only becomes worth it to mine in areas where energy is low cost and green, right? So it actually provides this interesting incentive to the global energy grid to produce the lowest emission, lowest cost energy possible. And this is not incentivized under existing systems. So proof of work, I have friends who work in the power industry. They're really fascinated by proof of work because it has this it adds a lot of health to the global energy grid, right? It has this interesting effect of making the global energy grid greener, making global energy prices cheaper, and the global energy grid more stable. You can do all kinds of, I'll talk about it in Discord if people are interested, but it has interesting like dampening battery effects that make things like power outages and so on less common even. And I'll cut myself off there.
Yeah, no, I love to hear actually that kind of that perspective on kind of like proof of work. I actually wanted to add something more from like a practical perspective too, which is to say Ironfish is proof of work, like, and a lot of people are like, why don't you do proof of stake? Well, like Evan just provided like a really interesting argument kind of like in proof of work's defense, but also there's kind of a resourcing kind of conversation that's worth having. So we're building a new layer one. We have a very lean team. Like you can see like a lot of the teams here on this call, and we're all trying to kind of build this and launch this product. And we want to build something, start small, build it from there, right? That's the kind of like the whole theory of the blockchain that we've always tried to stick with. And if we're going to like build a new private layer one, build the best user tooling that has ever existed in a blockchain too. And then also at the time we were building this, like proof of stake hadn't really been used at scale yet, right? Like, Ethereum's proof of stake hadn't been launched yet. So we can't kind of like do all these like interesting new technologies, but also focus a lot of the team's effort on kind of like building proof of stake in untested technology at scale. I'm sorry, Solana is not really proof of stake. It's not at scale. There are like very few validators. And honestly, if we look at Aleo as well, right, like they've been moving to proof of stake and they haven't been able to kind of launch their chain because they're kind of focused on their core value proposition, as well as, right, suddenly they want to move to proof of stake and now they can't produce blocks on their network and their testnet shut down. Like they'll eventually get there, but that's the cost of trying to do too many things at once. And there actually been talks about this. If you think about things as resource tokens, when you're trying to build a technology, if you think about them as like coins, and you only have a certain amount of coins to spend at one time, and when you ship and your technology becomes stable, you actually get that currency back and you can spend it on more things. But by thinking about it in that way, you don't spend too much of your resourcing currency, your innovation tokens at once. And then it kind of makes sure that you're not doing too many things poorly. You do fewer things well. And that's the whole like strategy of Ironfish's engineering team and technology strategy going forward. So just because we don't have something now and at launch, and I keep saying this in every question I answer, it doesn't mean that it won't be here at some point in some form in the future. I think that's all I have. If anyone else wanted to add anything, or I'll give it to Lena for the next question.
Okay, I think we can move on to the next question. Those were some really great answers, so we should definitely follow up and maybe do like an entire blog post about it. Okay, so I've seen a variation of this question in the chat as well, which is, when will Ironfish be listed on exchanges? Will there be a public sale? So there is not going to be a public sale. We are focused on making Ironfish a great technical project, and we are relying on you, the community, to make sure that it has adoption. I do also want to point out that Ironfish is a privacy project operating within the US regulatory framework. And so for us, it is challenging to approach exchanges directly. So there is no plan that we can announce on with Ironfish being listed on any exchange on day one. Happy to answer more questions on Discord, but that's kind of the answer for that one. As the Ironfish community continues to grow and as more users adopt it, how will the project handle scalability? That's the question. Joe, like you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah, happy to take that. Just 1 second here. So we've been working a lot in the test net to actually handle some of the issues that we would see come mainnet. Like, you guys actually helped us very significantly in the community with particularly phase 2 when dealing with load testing of our transaction throughput. So we're actually pretty confident in the ability of the Ironfish network to handle transaction load for the near term and potentially even the long term. We actually, like Jason has mentioned previously, we actually have a lot of plans post mainnet launch, which are sort of in order to help stabilize our network and maintain the health of the network. We have a lot of tooling that we're building out internally and projects on the roadmap to sort of handle load testing our system so that we can catch issues before they land in mainnet. I think the last thing that I'd mention is that during the testnet, you guys actually, when you're running nodes, you were submitting telemetry data, which you were informed of when you started your nodes. This is going to be an optional feature once we launch mainnet. By default, the nodes will not have telemetry enabled. It will be nice if users choose to opt into telemetry, because that will help us debug issues that are occurring in the decentralized network, as it's pretty hard to gain visibility into problems when you have a decentralized system such as this. I think that's all I have to say about scalability. Happy to answer any other questions on YouTube Live or in Discord later on.
Changes in projects have excluded Russian users. Do you expect that you will be required to do the same? So again, we are a US company, so we are operating under sanctions. So I do want to point out that under US sanctions currently, there are some Russian individuals who are on there and some Russian banks who are on there, and all citizens of Crimea are on there, but not Russian citizens. So we're operating under those constraints. We will not be able to airdrop any individual who is specifically on the OFAC sanctions list. But again, the sanctions list is not all of Russia. It's very specific individuals and organizations and Crimea. So if you are not on the OFAC sanctions list, then we are able to do the airdrop for you. And so we'll be kind of going through that process of doing KYC and figuring out who is eligible for the airdrop quite soon. But yes, if you're a Russian user at this moment in time, there's actually no restrictions for us doing the airdrop to you unless you are specifically on the OFAC sanctions list. Okay, next question. What compliance requirements does the platform meet, and how do you stay up to date with new regulations? So again, this is a question about some of the US regulations specifically for privacy coins or any coin under the securities context. So we can certainly talk about that. So I just want to preface it with the US regulatory regime requirement is extremely complex, and unfortunately it is extremely vague. So we have actually contacted both former and current regulators at organizations like the SEC. SEC stands for Securities Regulation, so they oversee anything that might potentially look like a security. We talked to people from FinCEN. So FinCEN is an organization under the US Treasury Department, and they are responsible for financial crimes such as money laundering. We have talked to some people from the OCC, which is another regulatory body under the Treasury Department, which oversees bank charters, and what's called the Bank Secrecy Act. So we have talked to quite a few people to try and understand to the best of our ability, how do we push a privacy project forward that does our goal of protecting the consumer and giving them privacy, but also doesn't violate any of the requirements. And so Ironfish, from our understanding as it is today, allows any regulated entity to still comply with any U.S. regulation. But, crypto right now is definitely, it's under the most scrutiny, regulatory scrutiny that it ever has been. But we are keeping up to date with people who work directly on these problems in the government. And we do ask them for help, or at least for advice. And, we do act upon it to the best of our ability.
I would say, Elena, I'd say one thing. Like everything I have seen, and we've had some people come and talk to our entire company about this from the US government. And most people want consumer protections and privacy. And we're trying to find that balance of how do you both continue regulation and give consumer privacy protection. So I think like you can speak to this maybe, Elena, but it's been like a somewhat of a collaborative effort and maybe not as antagonistic as some people see from the outset.
That is very true. Whenever we talk to people from the government, everyone is actually very aligned on privacy. Everyone understands that privacy is a good thing for not only US citizens, but also for the world. But people want to make sure that we are thinking about privacy in a careful way, such that if there are bad actors, if there are child traffickers and terrible people, that the system allows for those bad actors to be caught. And that's where the trick is with building a privacy solution that is a net good for the world. How do we protect the normal person, but also allow regulated entities to catch bad actors? And obviously at Ironfish, we have full intent of making sure bad actors do not use the system. And so we are very much aligned with that ethos. Cool. Okay, now we can move on to some of the next questions. Are there plans to develop tools that will expand the use cases for Ironfish? Sounds like Jason wants to take that one.
So if you're a part of our Discord, you'll notice that actually people have started to build their own tools. So I think like obviously Ironfish is kind of the core maintainer right now, Ironfish, as the team that you see here, but our goal is to not build all the tools. We want you to build the tools. And obviously, like if we're talking about kind of building tools and expanding the use case, like I think obviously people think bridges, but in kind of other tools like wallets, I would probably say are also very common. Both those things, obviously, we're pretty interested in. We actually are pretty interested in like a desktop wallet app right now. And eventually, like obviously we built multi-asset for bridge support, but that's just like the specifics of what we want to build. I think in general, we're very excited for the community to take our project and build things that we did not even think of, right? So that's kind of like the whole perspective. And people are already starting to do that. In our Discord, there's Fish Guy, who also goes by Hairtail, built Oreo Scan, and a lot of people are kind of using that project. He's also trying to ask us like how to kind of build these new tools for users. There's just like, remember, Ironfish is a kind of privacy platform. And what we enable people to do with that platform is, I think, a big part of how we'll measure success. Obviously, we'll be pushing that platform forward ourselves and building products. But I think everybody on the team wants to see other people take that and run. And that means building good developer tooling is high priority for the team. We want to have easy to use SDK, easy to use examples on how to integrate with the chain. All of these are super, super important to the team and are a part of our plans to develop other tooling, even if we're not the one actually building those products. Lena?
Okay, sorry. Yes. Next question. Will there be a Series B funding round in the near future? At this moment in time, the team is super laser focused to get into Mainnet. We do not need funding at this time. And just for transparency purposes, we're pretty well funded. We have definitely more than 2-year runway. And actually a lot more. So we don't feel like we need to raise funds at this time. Right now is not the best time to do a round anyways, and we're pretty close to Mainnet. We are looking at other projects like Near and Solana, for instance, who have done fundraising rounds post Mainnet. And there are definitely some pros and cons to do it that way. And we are kind of on the path to, if we do any future funding rounds, at this moment in time, it'll be post Mainnet, as Mainnet for us is very, very close. Okay, next question. How do you see as being Ironfish's users? How do you anticipate businesses using Ironfish, and what are the benefits for businesses? That's a great question. I'll kind of take the first half of it. So we actually have spoken to other companies in the non-crypto space who are very interested in privacy in the context of crypto. So for instance, you might have heard of a company called JP Morgan. So JP Morgan is one of the largest financial institutions. They have a crypto team inside the company that has done a project called Zether. Zether is a privacy protocol for Ethereum. EY is the biggest consulting group. Again, it's non-crypto, but one of the biggest consulting financial groups. And they're actively working on something called Nightfall, which I think was kind of adopted by the Polygon team. Nightfall, again, is a privacy protocol for Ethereum or EVM compatible chains. And then Visa has a pretty healthy crypto team as well. And they are definitely interested in privacy because they cannot operate their business in a fully transparent environment that crypto is today. So why am I bringing up all these businesses? There is clear demand that privacy is a necessity for any real financial institution to actually use crypto. We definitely want Ironfish to be the go-to solution for any privacy answer for crypto. And we're definitely actively working to make sure that happens. But our job right now is to make sure Ironfish is a good technical product. And then hopefully we can do those partnerships in the future, but no promises. Okay, next question. Will node operators be able to earn rewards on the mainnet? Rohan, would you like to take that one on?
Yeah, so for the node operators earning rewards on the mainnet, I think what we're going to do is we're still going to incentivize telemetry, and we still want people to kind of opt in. We don't have any plans for explicit rewards right now, but this is something that's going to help the decentralization and integrity of our network. So we want people to continue to opt in and still run full nodes for our network.
Awesome. Okay, next question. Will there be a GPU miner? Ooh, Jason, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen, right? There actually already are 2 GPU miners. So the answer is, will there be a GPU miner? Yes, there is a GPU miner now. There's 2 of them. The problem is that they're closed source and private. Ultimately, we want to see a public GPU miner surface, and we're making efforts to, not immediately right now, but we are making efforts to try to create an open source miner. It isn't our goal, to kind of leveling the playing field with these private mining operations. Obviously, we want to try to make it as fair as possible. And obviously, when you use these 2 mining pools that are private, that are GPU miners, obviously you're do they pay out? Are they reputable? We want to make the Ironfish mining pool obviously an option for people, even if it doesn't have a lot of hash power. So coming up with an open source GPU miner is in our goals. We are probably not going to be the ones to build it. We're going to push the community to do it. So if you're interested in this type of thing, please reach out. I always want to hear from you.
Okay, I'm actually gonna hijack since there's a question that I was just answering on YouTube, which is, oops. I don't understand how you're a privacy company, but acting centralized. I'm not entirely sure what this means. So I want to clarify that Ironfish testnet has hit over 200 countries. So if you look at stats at ironfish.network, you can actually see exactly where nodes are being hosted today, and they're being hosted all around the world. We are reporting over 60,000 nodes online, and they are literally across the entire globe. So, I think we're actually more decentralized than most mainnet projects today, and we're still in testnet form. So I'm very proud of that. So I want to make sure that that is very well highlighted. Okay, cool. Next question on our list.
Yeah, Elena, I'd say something about that. I think the question makes sense, which is, I think it was a little bit different than what you're talking about, which is like, we are a funded private company who are building a platform. And so I think it's more along the lines of like, how do we operate as a private company who's basically maintaining an open source project? I don't know if you want to take that.
Oh, sure. Okay, that actually does make more sense. So maybe I can interpret that question of like, is it okay for a decentralized project to be VC funded in a way? And I think the answer to that is yes. Like, humble brag, I think our engineering team is amazing. I think we have some great talent, and we would not be able to make up this team if we were not funded. That's just the truth of it. In this format, we're able to build the best product with the best people. And for what it's worth, our investors are extremely supportive to make sure that this project succeeds, even in the regulatory, hardships, I should say, that crypto is currently in today. So it's actually like the way we've constructed it, I think is probably the best way you can do a privacy project today, which is to have a team behind it that is motivated to make sure it succeeds.
Cool. I'm gonna just jump in, and because the next question that we had to answer was very much on this topic, and I wanted to use it to call out how great the team is. And so the actual question that somebody asked, which we'd love to hear, is how do you maintain such positivity in the team? It seems that you're always interested in working together with the community. And I just wanted to call out our team. The way we do this is by hiring people who really, really care about this project. We have talked to so many engineers in the crypto space to find the right set of people to bring this project forward. And we have, in many ways accomplished that. And I think everybody should be, on the team, everybody is very, very good at their job and is very, very passionate about what they're doing. And it bleeds through into Discord, into our community, into everything we do. And that also, on the side of the community, we'd love to see that this kind of passion brings in a passionate community, a positive community. And I'm personally really, really proud of that, and being involved with this project and the positivity of the project and the positivity of the community, and can't wait to launch it. So I wanted to address that one before we ran out of time.
Awesome. All right, I think we are at time. So any further questions, please go to our Discord and we'll be able to answer them there. If you can find our Discord on our Twitter, on basically any social. So if you don't currently have it, please go there. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate the community that we built. Yeah, we'll see you guys on Discord. Bye, everyone.